ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಅಂತಿಮ ಭಾಗ. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ 10 ಜನರ ಕನಸುಗಳನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಆದರೆ ಆ ಕನಸಿನ ನಂತರದ ಕೆಲಸಗಳು ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕುರಿತಂತೆ ಸೂಕ್ತ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನವನ್ನ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ದತ್ತಿತಾನಂದಜಿ ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ಮತ್ತು ಜಗದೀಶ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ನೀಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಸರ್. ಮೊದಲು ಜಗದೀಶ್ ಸರ್ ತಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯವನ್ನು ಮಂಡನೆ ಮಾಡಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆನಂತರ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಆಶೀರ್ವಚನ.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಗುರೂಜಿಯವರ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದದಿಂದ ನನ್ನ 2 ಮಾತು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾನು ಅಮೇರಿಕಾಯಿಂದ ಬಂದು ನಿನ್ನೆ ತಾನೇ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜೆಟ್ ಲ್ಯಾಗು. ಅಂಥ ಜೆಟ್ ಲ್ಯಾಗಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ನಿಮ್ಮ 10 ಇನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನಲ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚಸ್ ಕೇಳಿ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಗೂಸ್ ಬಂಪ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇರೋ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೊಡೋಯ್ತು. ಒಂಥರ ರೋಮಾಂಚನ ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ ಆ ಥರ ಅಷ್ಟು ಪ್ಯಾಷನೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇದಾಗಿ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ದ ಚೇಂಜ್, ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಅನ್ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ. and it's really very very inspirational. So whatever help that we can offer, we'll be very happy to do that. So I just want to touch on 3 things. ಒಂದು, ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ನಿಮ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರಿ. ಅದೇ ಥರ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಶೇರ್ ಮೈ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ ದಟ್ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಮೀ ಟು ಡೂ ಮೋರ್ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ have even bigger dreams, and what are some of the learnings that I have gone through, which hopefully it will be very helpful to all of you as well. So ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು BV ಜಗದೀಶ್ ಅಂತ. B stands for Bagalur, V is my father's name ವೆಂಕಟ್ ಸುಬ್ರಾವ್, and ಜಗದೀಶ್. ಈ ದೇವನಹಳ್ಳಿ ಹತ್ರ ಬಾಗಲೂರ್ ಅಂತ, ಇವಾಗ ಏರ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಹತ್ರ, ಆ ಬಾಗಲೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದು ನಾನು. ಆವಾಗ ನಾವು ಬೆಳೆದಾಗ ಅದು ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ವಿಲೇಜ್. ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ 1 ಬಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆರ್ ವಾಸ್ ನೋ ಹೈಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಇನ್ ದ ವಿಲೇಜ್. ಸೊ ಅಪ್ ಟು 7th ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹಳ್ಳಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಿತ್ತು. ಐ ಸ್ಟಡಿಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ವಿಲೇಜ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅಪ್ ಟು 7th ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್. ಆಮೇಲೆ 8th ಇಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಎಲ್ಡರ್ ಬ್ರದರ್, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಲೇಟರ್ ಆನ್ ಮೈ ಯಂಗರ್ ಬ್ರದರ್, ಹಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಜಾಯಿನ್. 3 ಜನನು ರೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಸರ್ವೇರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಬಜಾರಲ್ಲಿ ರೂಮ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ವಿ ಕುಕ್ಡ್ ಅವರ್ ಓನ್ ಫುಡ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ವೆಂಟ್ ಟು ಶೇಷಾದ್ರಿಪುರಂ ಹೈಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಐ ವೆಂಟ್ ಟು UVCE ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬಾಂಬೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದೆ. ಸೊ ಬಾಂಬೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ದಿ ರಿಯಲ್ ಟರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಲೈಫ್. ಐ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಟು ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ ಇನ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ there is one turning point. ಆ ಟರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್, ಯು ಆರ್ ದ ಲೂಸರ್. And you never know when you get that turning point, right? So it's not planned, it just happens. But you have to put in the effort, you have to put in your hard work, you have to do everything. And that's when the nature cooperates with you to give you that turning point. So I was so fortunate. I got to work with a brilliant entrepreneur who had a PhD from an American university, and now Bombay-nalli he had started his company. And I was so fortunate to get into that company. That is when my inspiration, my first dream started. A day will come when I'm going to start my own company. Because I got inspired by this founder, Dr. H.J. Nain Antanbutto. I was so inspired. This company called Bombay Electronics. And I saw him, how brilliant he was, how hardworking he was, how committed he was to his employees. I thought, day will come that I'm going to start my own company. Then you start working towards your journey. It's not going to happen automatically. So you start working towards your journey. And somehow during the process, I landed in Silicon Valley, which is also, I'm very fortunate. I could have landed in Atlanta, I could have landed in Dallas, I could have landed somewhere else. But luck was on on my side, which I feel how nature cooperates to get you what you want, because you have this dream to start your own company. So after becoming financially stable, it took me about 11 years to start my first company, which is a very hard thing in America, right? Because you have very little support. And as immigrants, it's not easy for you to get the funding, because back in 1993, there were not that many Indians who were starting companies. So we were one of the very first ones to start companies. Avaga Americanalli Indians ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ we are considered to be more technical people, technocrats. At the most, Indians, the highest ranking that they had got in any company is to become a manager. Not even a director, forget about a vice president, and not even a CEO. So, anthadralli, when you start your own company, how are you going to get the funding? So, nobody is going to fund you. So, we figured out a way of how we can generate the cash through some sort of a consulting that we started. And the money that we made, but we were very clear, we will never be a consulting company. We were very clear, and we wanted to build a product company. Ivaru helta idralla ade tara. So we wanted to build a product company because that is where you can scale. But the money we saved from the consulting is what we put back into this product company, and that's what turned out to be a mega company. So it's called Exodus Communications, and then we became the leader of the internet market at that time. And we were so big within about 5 years or 6 years that Bill Clinton named us as a national asset. He was the president of America. He named us as the national asset. Imagine 2 Indian founders starting the company with nothing, with really nothing, right? We were able to build the company. So it's because of the dream that you have, and because you work towards that dream, and when that happens, nature will start to cooperate, and that also will make it happen for you, right? So you have to be very grateful for every step of your life, how things actually panned out. We have to be very grateful for all the things that God, nature, everything that cooperates with you. So then I went on to do my second company, which also did extremely well. And now for the last 10 years, there are 2 things that I do. One is about 60% of my time, I do invest in next generation of entrepreneurs. That means next generation of people who are building companies which will change the world. So 60% of my time I spend on building the next generation of companies. 40% of my time, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm doing it. 40% of my time I spend in non-profit, which actually makes an impact to the society. Right? So we are involved in non-profits both in the US as well as in India. Indianalli ಅವರು ಇವರು ಹೇಳಿದ ಪ್ರಪಂಚನ ಅವಾಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ, we have this non-profit called One School at a Time. And One School at a Time ali we have built almost like 100 schools across India. These are government schools that are in very bad shape. So we realized that when schools actually infrastructure is bad, then student capacity starts to reduce because students stop going to schools. So those who can afford to pay for private schools, those children will go to private schools. But a lot of them, especially the underprivileged, who cannot pay the fees, they will go back into child labor, which is the unfortunate part. So this is where we go identify these schools. The schools have good support from the village, good support from teachers, and all of that. Then we go knock off the old building and then go and rebuild. In fact, the biggest one that we built in the last 2 or 3 months is the school in Mulbagal. DVG ಕೇಳಿದಿರಲ್ಲ, Dr. D.V. Gundappa. Our school now completely we have rebuilt it. It cost us 2.5 crores. Of course, I'm not the only donor for this, but now the whole society is supporting to build these kind of schools. So that's part of the thing that I wanted to communicate. You cannot do everything yourself. You have to build the movement. It's like a movement, right? When you're doing good work, you cannot be just by yourself. You have to build that whole movement to bring lots of other people. So Andre, you need to create that awareness to others. Why this is important? Why helping the society and uplifting our Guruji ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ, it's not just about you becoming successful. It's not just about you making the money and leading a good life. You have to uplift the rest of the society. ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮನೆಯನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಲಾಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. And you will always be in fear. You cannot operate that way. You have to uplift the rest of the society. So what I learned during the process is, especially for those of you who are building companies, the importance of sharing the wealth. Importance of sharing the wealth. As you are building the company, it's very important that you create the leaders and you also create wealth for all these people. So we created something like 300, 400 millionaires in our company. And one of the good ones, smart one, he's an American guy. He has a Harvard Business School MBA degree. Oh no, he felt, look, I've made enough money because of working in this company. And he was very grateful to us for giving him an opportunity to work in our company. And he went and started a non-profit organization in America called Boys and Girls Club of America. So we all think, ಅವರು ಗುರುಜಿ ಯಾವಾಗಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಗೆ, ಅಮೇರಿಕಾ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಗೋಲ್ಡನ್ ಗೂಸ್, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಸೊ ಇದು ಅಂತ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ವೇ. There is a lot of poverty in America. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. So there are societies that are completely deprived of basic education, deprived of basic amenities. So government, not government, the parties nor ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, especially ಈ white dominated societies ಅಲ್ಲಿ, they draw lines, and people who are below poverty line, ಈ ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಹಿಸ್ಪ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ಸ್, ಮೆಕ್ಸಿಕನ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆ ಥರ ಇರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, they draw the line and they create sectors where you have different benefit on this side and different benefit on the other side. So this guy, a very kind, nice person, he said, look, from now on, I'm going to dedicate myself, especially with a Harvard Business School degree, and he has made enough money, and he has the leadership capacity. He went and he did start this thing called the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club alli ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ, these underprivileged children and their families are in real bad shape, right? Because when these children go back home after the school, their situation is very different. Parents are drug addicts. Parents are using foul language. Parents are using guns all the time. How can children grow up in an environment like that? So the objective of this Boys and Girls Club is to bring these children from school, 2 ಗಂಟೆಗೋ 3 ಗಂಟೆಗೋ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆಗತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆದಾಗ you bring them into these centers. So he created the first center, and you bring these children and you provide all the facilities. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸು, ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜಸ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜಸ್ಸು, ಅಥವಾ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸು, ರೈಟ್? ಯು ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಯು ಬ್ರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ರಾತ್ರಿ 9 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಯು ಗೋ ಅಂಡ್ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ದೆಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಇನ್ ದೇರ್ ಹೋಮ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ವೇ, ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಲೈಫ್, ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು be in an environment that is not progressive for them. And especially ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಥರ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ದೇ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಟು ಥಿಂಕ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಲೈಫ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಸಿನೇಟಿಂಗ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಹಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೋರೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ಹೂ ಕೇಮ್ ಟು ದಿಸ್ BGCP and how they went on to become engineers or doctors or lawyers or went on to become great people in the society, right? So the point is, that I want to share here is the importance of sharing the wealth. No, if you look at Infosys, right from day one, Narayan Murthy made it a point that I'm going to build a company where wealth is going to be shared to many, many, many people. If you look at all the second generation of the folks who benefited from Infosys, right? Whether you take Nandan Nilekani or Chris Gopalakrishnan or ton of others, so much impact they have created to this nation. Instead, if Narayan Murthy were to own 99% of the company, he would not have shared with others. I don't think this would have happened. So, point number one, right? The importance of sharing the wealth as you are building these companies. So, keep that in mind. Second, I don't know how many of you have actually heard, there is this thing called Maslow's hierarchical theory. I don't know how many of you have heard of this, Maslow's hierarchical theory. Maslow's hierarchical theory, what it says is, if you look at it, it's a diagram like this. So the bottom is people who are looking to survive. Right? When you don't have 2 meals a day, what is going on in your head? You want to somehow make sure you get the 2 meals per day. That's all you are thinking. Once you get that 2 meals, then the next thing you worry about is safety. Right? I want to make sure my family is safe. So this is how it progresses. So common man, if you go to a person who doesn't have 2 meals a day and ask that person to contribute back, they will not do it. They will not do it. So those who do it are the ones who start elevating themselves. Eventually, at some point of time, not everybody will do it, but some will get to that stage, to the top, where, hey, I've made enough money, I've made enough name, I've learned enough, let me go and share more with others so that I can start uplifting the society. And this is the norm of life. This is absolutely the norm of life. But what I was fascinated today to see, right, is so many of you, you've crossed that from the second or the third structure to the top where you want to help the society, which is very good. But the point that you should remember is, as you are solving the societal problems, don't forget the importance of raising the money. So you have to create this ecosystem, you have to create this awareness, you have to bring this passion that you have and spread that to a lot more people. That's why I was emphasizing that don't try to boil the ocean. Do one thing and do that one thing right. When you do that, people will always be there. That's how law of nature is. People will always be there to help the ones who are spending the time. I mean, we are watching this, right? When we do Akshay Patra, when we do one school at a time, or this UVC scholarship that we do, there are so many things that we do. As we do this, lots of people will come forward to help because they have that mind. So it's important for us to think, especially when you jumped without having made the money yourself or without having created the wealth. It's important for you to remember that I have to figure out how to raise money constantly. Because what I have learned in life is, if you don't have money, the game is over. At the end of the day, the game is over. Whatever passion you have, whatever dream you have, it's just not going to go anywhere. Right? So it's important to have the dream, but at the same time, it's also important that we act with responsibility. And similarly, when somebody gives you the money, don't abuse that money. Make it accountable. Tell the donor what value you are bringing to the donor for the money that he or she has donated. And if we do that right, money will just start pouring in. And we have seen this. When we started one school at a time, it was indeed one school a year. That is how we built. Because we focused We didn't want to go do 10 schools a year. But today, we get enough money, we have enough branding, we get enough support. There are like 100 volunteers in Bangalore, and we have about 50 volunteers in the US. So, right? The job of the people over there is to raise money. And imagine people sitting in America are contributing to the schools that are being built in India. In fact, I had a situation. I was there for one of the school inaugurations. So I had the local MLA. He was sitting next to me. So ಅವರು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಸರ್ ಇದು ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನ್ ಹುಣಸೂರು ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ತಾಲೂಕು, ಮೈಸೂರು ಹತ್ರ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಇನಾಗ್ರೇಷನ್ಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಅವರು ನನ್ನ ಪಕ್ಕ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಈ ವಾಸ್ ಆಸ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಮೀ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್. ನಿಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ಜಮೀನು ಏನಾದರೂ ಇದೆಯಾ ಈ ಏರಿಯಾಲಿ ಅಂತ. ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಮಗೇನು ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಯಾರಾದರೂ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ಸು ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಈ ಏರಿಯಾಲಿದ್ದಾರಾ? ಏನಾದರೂ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದೆಯಾ ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ಏರಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ. ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ವಾ ನಿಮಗೆ? ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ದಿರಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಕಟ್ಸಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ನೀಡಿತ್ತು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು ಕಟ್ಸಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಆಮೇಲೆ ದೆನ್ ಹಿ ಗೆಟ್ಸ್ ಅಪ್ ಟು ಗಿವ್ ಇ ಸ್ಪೀಚ್. ಆವಾಗ ಹಿ ಟೆಲ್ಸ್ ದ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್, ಹಿ ಸೇಸ್, ನೋಡಿ, ದೇವರು ಇದಾರೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ಪಾಲ್ಗೆ ಇವರೇ ದೇವರು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಚೂರು ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ನೋ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಟು ದಿಸ್ ವಿಲೇಜ್, ಅಂಡ್ ಇನ್ ಸ್ಪೈಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬಿಲ್ಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿಫುಲ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದಾನೋ ಬಂದು 10,000 ಮೈಲಿ ದೂರದಿಂದ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬಿಲ್ಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ರಿಯಲ್ ಗಾಡ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅಸ್. ಅವಾಗ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಹಿಯರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್, ರೈಟ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಫೀಲ್ very happy and thrilled about the work we are doing. So I can imagine all the dream that you all have. So the same way, right, the dream that I had is, how can we help create millions of people, millions of children to get the best education? Because personally, I benefited only because of education and having good parents who supported me that education is important. They sacrificed completely to provide us the education. And education is what made the difference. So that's why we focus 100% on what we can do to provide the education. So I really was very, very inspired, and I'm also very fortunate to Guruji. It so happened I'm a big follower of Ramakrishna Ashrama since my childhood. Ever since I grew up in Surveyor Street, I used to go to Ramakrishna Ashrama for the 7 o'clock prayer. I mean, those of you who have not gone, I highly recommend you go to that prayer, because when the prayer starts at 7 p.m., there is a magnetic effect. You will never experience that anywhere. There is a magnetic effort. When you sit there and for 45 minutes, it just transpires you into a totally different world. So go do that in Basungudi. So today I happen to live right next to that place. I mean, I bought it because it's right next to Ramakrishna Ashrama. And a good friend of mine in USA who studied in Vidyarthi Mandiram, he introduced Swamiji to me last time when I came. And I spent good quality time, and I also addressed the students. So I will do whatever I can to help the amazing students that are there in Vidyarthi Mandiram. And each of you can do in your own way, contributing to the society. ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, how India was number 1 in GDP in the 15th century, actually, not too long ago. And I think we all can be very proud of the next India that we can build. Thank you so much.
ನಾವು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅತಿಥಿಗಳನ್ನಾಗಿ ಯಾರನ್ನು ಕರೀಬೇಕು, 10 ಜನರ ಕನಸನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಅವ್ರಿಗೊಂದು ಸರಿಯಾದಂತ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರು ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕರೀಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಅವರು ಸರ್ನ ಜಗದೀಶ್ ಸರ್ನ ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ರು. ನಾವು ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಫೈಲ್ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ, ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ, ಅಣ್ಣ ಯಾವ್ದು ಹೇಳೋದು ಯಾವ್ದು ಬಿಡೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರೊಫೈಲ್ ಇದೆ ಅವರದ್ದು, ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ 100 ಶಾಲೆಗಳನ್ನ ಅವರು ಜೀರ್ಣೋದ್ಧಾರ ಮಾಡೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡದು ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಅದರ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡಿಸುವಂತ ಪ್ರಬಂಧನ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಜಮೀರ್ ಸರ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಂದಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ನಮ್ಮೊಡನೆ ಅಮೂಲ್ಯವಂತ ಸಮಯಗಳನ್ನ ಕಳೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರದೇ ಮಾತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಪ್ರೀಶಿಯಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದು ನನಗೆ ಗೌರವ ಮತ್ತು ಹೆಮ್ಮೆಯನ್ನು ಮೂಡಿಸಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಹೊತ್ತು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರ ಕನಸನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನ ಮಾಡಿ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಅವರು ಚೀಫ್ ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ನ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಭಾಷಣವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಅನಂತರದ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರಾದಂತಹ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದ ಅವರು ಗೌರವಾರ್ಪಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ.
Going to Mysore, they were giving Mysore pet. Here they
ಶಾಲ್ ಸರಿ ಗೊತ್ತು ಶಾಲ್ ಸರಿ ಗೊತ್ತು ಶಾಲ್ ಸರಿ ಗೊತ್ತು